And a story that caught my eye is this, in the FT today, UK to offer to pay more for drugs to placate Trump and pharma groups. Joining me to discuss this is Shanker Singham, CEO of Competare and ex-advisor to the UK Secretary of State for Trade and the US Trade Representative. Shanker, thank you for joining me. I was at a healthcare conference in London this week. It was all talk about tariffs and prices and all the rest of it. What is the significance of this announcement that the UK is going to pay more for drugs?
Well, there's thanks. There's a bit of a background for this, a bit of a context for this that we need to sort of go into. So there's been historically quite a concern from US pharmaceutical companies about pricing policies around the world. They are concerned about, particularly with respect to the UK, the buyer power. You know, obviously we have a big buyer in the NHS, and the NHS does have buyer power over pharmaceuticals, and it drives down price. That's why prices of pharmaceuticals to the NHS are relatively low. Then you have a whole range of countries where they don't really protect the patents of these pharmaceutical companies, so that also drives price down, and that's led to a situation where the price in the US is very high, because essentially the US consumer is paying for all of the research and development spend of these pharmaceutical companies, and the cost of production of a drug is very high. It's about 500 billion for one cure. Most of these things fail, so you're also pricing in the cost of failure. So this has been a long-standing problem that the pharmaceutical industry has sort of had. What the U.S. administration has done, rather interestingly, is on the one hand they've said we're going to price it, we're going to require that bit of the U.S. healthcare sector, Medicare, that buys drugs, to buy at prices that are the lowest anywhere in the world. So that's going to obviously drive US prices even down to very, very low levels. And that would limit the ability of companies in the US to do the research into new drugs and so forth. At the same time, he's saying there's going to be a 100% tariff on branded, patented products being exported from other countries into the US. So all of this is coming together in this particular US-UK trade negotiation, the pharmaceutical trade negotiation. And so the US and the UK will be meeting next week to discuss this. And I suspect what will come out of that discussion is, one, some sort of commitment that the buyer power, which is an anti-competitive effect of the NHS, will somehow be dealt with. In other words, the UK will buy product at more pro-competitive pricing, which means higher pricing. And maybe there will be some agreement in exchange for that to lower that 100% tariff that the president is.
I see. So it's a quid pro quo. So our pharma companies could benefit, but the quid pro quo is that when we're buying US drugs from US pharma companies, the NHS is going to have to pay more.
They're going to have to pay more so that the administration can lower the US price.
Yes, exactly.
That's the fundamental problem.
Because US consumers at the moment are bearing all the brunt of R&D costs, research and development costs, through higher prices there where the rest of the world is not.
Yeah, correct. And I expect that what they will also discuss, and this is something that the pharmaceutical industry, both in the US and the UK and other major pharma producers like Japan and Switzerland, will also want to see, is under the trade arrangements, the global trading arrangements, the World Trade Organization, there was an agreement to protect, all countries should protect these patents. There was a big exception to that because of what's called essential medicines for particularly developing countries. During the COVID pandemic, that extended to all COVID-related medicines. So there is an ongoing discussion in the World Trade Organization about extending that even further to, pretty much all patented products, and that obviously would significantly erode the ability of these companies to price, to do the research that's needed. They also are under pressure from the administration because of this 100% tariff to produce in the US. So you're going to get more UK companies producing in the US, and so you'll actually have UK companies selling to the NHS from production sites in the US, and therefore,
yes,
they will certainly want to see higher prices,
absolutely,
and support the research in those centres.
We shall watch this with great interest. Thank you very much indeed for updating us on the background. Shanker Singham, the CEO of Compete and ex-advisor to the UK Secretary of State for Trade and the US Trade Representative.